Welcome back. Today we are going to be taking a look at the plane that Gaijin took a look at. Saw that it rivaled some planes at 4.3 in terms of top speed, decided 2.0 was too high of a BR, and then downtiered it to 1.7. We are of course talking about the He-100, but I suppose most of you guys can read the title anyway, and this plane didn't need an introduction. Sure, top speed is not the only important metric, but the He-100D is definitely not a weak plane. This thing has no business at 1.7, and that's mostly because you are going to be fighting 3, or maybe 4 if you take into account the last category as well, groups of enemies. Group 1 is going to be the group of people that downloaded this game on accident, thought it was World of Warplanes, and have played this game for approximately 2 minutes. This is their first game and they are in a reserve biplane. Then the second category are the non-reserve biplanes, just very poor performing vehicles, piloted by someone that has half an hour of playtime in this game. The third group is gonna be the monoplane, but it's stock, and the pilot has about an hour of playtime experience, so he is still gonna be dying one way or the other. And then the fourth group is gonna be your absolute tryhard sweatlord, because he tries to maintain that 2KD at 2.0, so he can flex to his friends without actually telling what plane he accomplished it in. So all in all, this plane is in a pretty good spot. Of course in a full up tier if you're gonna run into something like, well, the F4U-1A, which is essentially the big brother of this thing, or God forbid you run into something like a P-39N. Then sure you are gonna have problems, but is that because this plane is weak? Or is it because those enemy vehicles are equally, if not even more, under tier than this thing is? Half the power of the He-100 is the speed. The turn time is okay, but at this BR you're not gonna be out-turning many people. It's mostly gonna be coming down to the amount of energy that you have coming into the merge, because you're just so damn quick. The climb rate isn't that great, the guns aren't that amazing, the 3 Mausers are very much okay, but they're not gonna be winning many rewards, and I mean that's kind of to be expected at this BR. So you are looking at a plane that's pure boom and zoom for the most part, unless of course you have plenty of energy to work with, and your enemy is somewhat lobotomized, but in general that's gonna be most of your enemies, so you can make this thing work basically every match. The issue is that there is gonna be a lot of people, the category that downloaded this game on accident, or the guy with 1 hour of playtime in a monoplane. Monoplanes just require a little bit more brain power than something like a biplane. It is a little bit of a learning curve. This game is a massive learning curve, and if you are getting into this game, I recommend you to try to stick out the storm a little bit. Because yes, it's very rough at the start. It has been for basically everyone, unless you have flight experience in a different game. It is very unforgiving, especially if you don't know what you're doing and if you don't know where to look for guides and don't know who to ask. Because a lot of guys in this community are simply not as credible as they would like you to think. But that's a topic for a different time. Long story short, if you like planes, if you like flying, if you like Jeffrey Epsteining people in the back of the head, then I advise you to just try to stick through it a little bit longer. It's very frustrating, it's very painful, but if you know what to look for and if you know who to ask, you might not end up hugging a tree like that guy just did. So today we are going to be taking a look at using speed to outperform basically everyone in your BR bracket. Of course in that up tier you are in a bit of a disadvantage, but it's mostly because the people that fly those under tiered 2.7 planes are going to be the same people that, well, they sweat their balls off to maintain that 3-to-1 in the most broken vehicles in the game. So yes, you are going to be struggling against those guys because they have a ton of experience. They know how to use their performance against people that aren't that experienced, and they are pretty good at punishing newbies. The second they run into someone that isn't lobotomized, then they actually turn into someone that camps the airfield, or at least that's the case 95% of the time, which is extremely annoying to fight. Even more so if you are inexperienced yourself and you already struggled to get the upper hand in the first place. But I basically just told you why this game sucks for 4.5 minutes, while also trying to tell you to keep playing the game. And I swear I'm not just trying to keep you in this game so I have new people to shoot at. Really guys, please keep playing the game. But in all seriousness, the He-100 at 2.0 is already quite good. 1.7 just means you are going to be down tiered quite often. The one issue that you will find yourself in with this thing is not the lack of turn, not the lack of climb rate, because they are still respectable. It's the 2-hit combo that is the overheating of this engine, together with if anything on your plane gets hit, at least for 95% of the time, you are gonna have a water leak or an oil leak. And both those things are just gonna send you straight back to the airfield. This thing is super fragile and it forces you to play super passively. So if you are looking for a plane to learn boom and zooming in, this is basically the perfect pickup. Everyone turns better than you for the most part, and you can use your speed to outturn some enemies, like something like the P-40. You merge at a higher speed. You can use that speed to start outturning him at the start of the fight. You get advantage, you get advantageous position. And then you can use your energy to slowly work him to the deck and kill him. Sounds very simple. It is very simple. Is it very easy? Definitely not. These planes require quite a bit of brain input to actually play right. And I've been hammering this home for a little bit now. And I'm not saying this in the sense that you need a lot of brain input to kill something like an F3F. I'm saying this in the sense that if you are equally as inexperienced, the F3F, all he has to do is put his cursor on your plane. The thing is, when the speed difference is so high, just like you are seeing right here, it doesn't really matter that he puts his cursor on us, because his nose will not be able to follow his mouse, because he is simply going too slow. The issue is that something like an F3F just doesn't stall out, and if he has some speed in him, it's very hard to do an energy trap like I just showed you right here. Because he just ends up pointing up his nose and then forcing a head-on with you. And that's very frustrating. And if I hadn't actually killed him there, he probably would have reversed me. He would have hit me with 1 or 2 of his 7mm, and I would have been sent straight back to the runway. Very annoying indeed. So you need to fly this thing super carefully. You want to make sure that no one gets guns on you. And you need to make sure that you plan your passes in advance. And you don't really have guns to rely on either. Sure, you'll get your occasional one shot here and there, but if you really go all in for the high deflection, high speed shot that you will find yourself in at the start of a fight, you will find that very often you just get a few hits and then the enemy is instantly on your 6. Luckily, you are fighting people that are still lobotomized, and you will end up very often just getting away with it. So if you do notice the mistakes that you make, you get a reset and you know what to do in case that the enemy misses, doesn't have enough energy, or is just not really paying attention. You just want to make this a learning experience. Sure, you are going to be kicking babies, but trust me, it is for the greater good. Now, I'm not telling you if you are level 100 to go at this BR and just shit on some biplanes, because you are going to get bored of it very quickly, unless you're one of those guys that of course sweats the balls off for that 3-1. Yes, I'm already increasing, because now we are talking about the people that have 4,000 kills in the damn thing. But yet again, Sea Gladiator, he actually gets a hit on us and doesn't start an oil leak, which is very much one of the 7 world wonders. But the Gladiator then goes ADHD and decides to strafe some pillboxes. He's now basically stalling himself out. He lost a lot of energy and he's instantly energy trapped. I go back up and I'm gonna start, well, looping this guy, but this is the issue with getting content at lower tiers. Sure, I can get high kill games relatively quickly, but I mean, look at that Sea Gladiator. First he's on my 6, he's shooting at me, then he decides he wants to shoot an AA. He goes back for me, I crit him, and then he crashes going for the same AA again, except he misses and only hits the ground. So the kill quality here is absolutely the bare minimum that I can provide on the channel without having you guys tune out instantly. Unless I start making jokes about your uncle telling you to pick up the soap. Yes, for some reason when I make remarks like that, the watch time actually stagnates for a little bit. Kind of weird of you guys. I didn't know that PTSD kept you in such a shock that it made you unable to click off the video. But hey, I'm gonna abuse that knowledge to the best of my advantage. The same way I am abusing my speed as my advantage for basically every kill. And this makes a bit of a double whammy. Super passive planes are inherently boring to watch on YouTube. Of course, it teaches you some things, and with the commentary and some good gameplay here and there, it might still be an enjoyable video. But I'm telling you that Planes that play like this are inherently more boring to watch than a vehicle that can dogfight everything. A plane that's not forced to fly in straight lines, break off after shooting some rounds and then flying back up and doing the same thing over and over again. I guarantee you, if you are watching an engagement, click off halfway and click a random point in the video, the only thing that changes is the scenery and the enemy vehicle. The thing is, it's a very good thing to learn when it's so repetitive. The plane is super straightforward. It's very linear to play, and I mean that in the most literal sense you can imagine. And the nice thing, it removes some variables. It makes it so that the way that you fly, if you do something right, of course it depends on the enemy, but in general, if you do something right, it will work, and if you do something wrong, you will die. Because you only have one main advantage, and that's all you can really use on this thing. Sure, the climb rate is okay and all that, but I mean in general you are going to be using your speed to kill your enemies. And if you use it wrong, you are going to be outturned by most of your enemies, and you are just going to be sent back to the runway or back to the hangar one way or the other. So what do we do here? They have a little bit of position on me here. There's two of them right next to each other, and I wanted to stall out the P-36. The issue is that the P-36 breaks off, goes in a head-on, starts shooting at about 3 kilometers into the head-on, and gets absolutely nothing done. He distracts both of these two. The 109 does. It's a 109A, I think, looking at that camo. Yes, it is. And that's one of the worst planes that you can fly at this BR. Now here's a little bit of target prioritization. Who do I go for first? Do I go for the P-36? Or do I go for the P-36? Of course it doesn't really matter. You just go for the one that's the easiest, or the one that poses the most threat when it comes to their positioning. Now the second one was easier as well as higher and had more energy, so he's going to be prime target. Switching over to the next guy that's basically stalled out. We hold the trigger down for a little bit and we Epstein him in the back of his head. That's kill number 3. We go for the SB-2U. Not exactly a dangerous plane, but you do want to be careful of any plane with a gunner. And I'll show you that after this kill as well. It's just very annoying because if that gunner hits you once or twice with a lot of planes, it's a bit of an RNG show where it turns out if you get hit once, you might get pilot sniped, you might get set on fire, you might get your engine one shot. With this thing, if you get hit, you're looking at an oil leak and you are looking to go back to the airfield. It's just annoying all around. Another SBU is a little bit higher than us. He has a lot of energy, and I actually am forced to take the turn with him for a little bit because he just has too much of a position and we aren't quick enough to get away from him. So what do? I kind of pressure him into flying away. He's gonna lose a lot of that dive speed because the SB-2U is just absolutely pitifully slow. Which coincidentally means that, well, we are gonna be going twice as fast as him. Which is a great advantage to have. But he still has a little bit of an altitude advantage. And he has that pesky gunner. And if you have paid attention to it, the gunner is shooting through the fuselage of the plane. And it's a little bit wacky. But what we have done here is abuse the fact that he is so slow. He's not going to maintain his speed whatsoever. And it's going to make it so that even though he has a lot of altitude on us, or at least had, his energy difference isn't that high anymore. And if he tries to pressure us now, then we can easily run away from him, energy trap him, and stall him out. The issue is he keeps trying to stay above us. And I'm just trying to get some hits in. And I'm just getting hits after hits after hits. And this guy's just not dying. That's the annoying part about this vehicle sometimes. And I thought at this point, there is no chance that gunner isn't dead. Yeah, it isn't. But look at that gunner. He's just shooting straight through the fuselage. I just get a bunch more hits and then my last few rounds kill the gunner. And we're out of ammo. He then sits on the runway for a good 2 minutes. Not realizing that if you are on the runway for 2 minutes and you have the ticket advantage, if you are the last guy left and after 2 minutes you still lose on tickets because, well, you are not an active air player anymore. Absolutely fantastic change, Gaijin. Thank you very much for the change of it. What wasn't a very nice change was the BR change of this thing, but hey, can't win them all. We go for the first guy. We have some guys above us where we accidentally still had JIP turned on, which means join in progress. If you have that stuff turned on, I recommend you to turn it off. How you do that? You go into your settings. It's the main option menu. You type in join in progress, JIP or something like that. You just type in join. You'll see a little slider. turn that off. It's going to help you out tremendously, especially in vehicles like this one, where the speed is important, and having altitude on someone is also important. If you turn jib on, you might join in 2.5 minutes after the game started, like we had right here. So what did I do? I went for the guy that was below us. There's still too many people above us, and I didn't want to wait it out. I didn't want to keep side climbing until I was above everyone. There's really no use in doing that. I'd rather get a quick kill in, I'd rather make sure that that guy is out of the match and I don't have to worry about him anymore. And then the people that have altitude are not that wary of me, because they see me diving, they see me engaging someone, and after I'm done engaging that guy, I'm gonna climb a little bit to the side. And if then those two guys that are above us actually decide that I'm not a threat and then go for the other closer targets, easier targets, or whatever the reason might be, then just as you are seeing on the screen right here, you are gonna be given the advantage by doing basically nothing other than getting an extra kill. Because if I had kept climbing, these two guys probably would have been above me, would have locked me down for a very long time, and they would have made my game boring as hell, because I'm just forced to keep running away from these people. If I have some altitude, I can dictate the fight, and I can use the speed that this thing can hold in a straight line to just get away from the fight, go back up and start looping, like I have been for the entirety of this video already. And that is nice. Sure, this plane is stupendously quick. It's not the fastest when it comes to getting up to that speed, and using some dive and just using your kinetic energy to put it into that speed means that you will hold it extremely well, because the higher you go over your straight line top speed, the more energy you will lose when you start to go straight or pitch your nose up. The higher your straight line speed, 9 out of 10 times your straight line linear retention is just better as well. And then we shoot 6 rounds and dome the guy in the back of his head. DBF, I'm just keeping this in for the sake of inclusivity. That's even the correct way to pronounce that. But in general, just having a higher top speed doesn't really mean that you are that quick on the deck if you put it in a straight line. Sure, if you wait forever, it will eventually be. The thing is, having just a high top speed means that you will hold it very nicely, and that means that if you come out of a dive, you will not waste nearly as much speed as the guy that goes about 200 kilometers an hour slower than you when you put it into somewhat of a climb. That way you can use the fact that you are much quicker without actually using the speed itself. Yes, this is kind of convoluted and it's kind of a weird topic. If it's not too clear to you what I mean with it, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll answer it gladly. This game is just weird. There's a lot of technicalities about it, and there's a lot of theoretical stuff, practical stuff, and just annoying stuff to learn. And I'm not trying to dishearten all of you guys from playing this game, because it can be fun if you learn the ropes. I just know that it will be frustrating if you don't. Sure, if you send it into every head-on that you get, you might get a kill here and there. But are you really playing a game? Or can you might as well just load up Cookie Clicker and click until you win? Because that's essentially the equivalent of it. Thank you all for watching. I hope I didn't dishearten anyone. And I'll see you in the next one.